China is going to be, or actually not China, China is a major market. And the only issue with China is the fact that China wants to consume its own film and own film culture. So the Chinese market doesn't necessarily represent for a either European or American or Canadian producer a huge market itself, but it actually is generating these days probably more revenue than any other territory if your film is theatrically released in China, or can have any type of life outside of that, being able to be seen by the billion Chinese that are there, even though they don't tend to pay a lot of money for it.
Well, and at least traditionally, I haven't done the research recently. There has been a quota system on the amount of non-Chinese or non-domestic films allowed into the country. And what's complicated that, have you done any research or have you had any conversations about that?
Well, I know that there's the quota
recently?
system. They basically will remove your film if it's too successful. In other words, if you hit, I don't know, $20 million of box office or $50 million of box office, that film will be yanked and it won't make any more money. The only way that film would continue to be shown is if it was a national film. And Canada has a unique opportunity because it has a film treaty with China that says that if your film is a Canada-China co-production, it is recognized as a Chinese film, not subject to those quotas. So it can, stay longer than the 20 weeks. I think 20 weeks was the longest or something on the theater, and it can make more than the maximum box office itself.
Yeah. One of the things that I found when I was doing that, I did some comprehensive research on this a few years back on the quota system. And one of the challenges that I had was I found that the information that existed out there was incredibly opaque. The most comprehensive piece of literature on the subject was a very wonderful paper, very comprehensive. It was the most comprehensive thing. It was probably, it was lengthy enough. It was detailed, but it was a capstone thesis from a student at Duke University. So there wasn't a tremendous amount of literature at the time that I looked at this. And, as a consequence, there wasn't a tremendous amount of information. So that, from what I could imagine, makes the entire thing a little tricky.
Yeah, they basically have me worry with MAD, China film quota.
Is that Alfred E. Newman?
Yeah, it looks like it. The quota is the number of films also. In other words, they started at 10. Now they have 20 films in 2002, 34 films.
It was around 34 or 35 last time I checked.
And then there was a challenge to it and so forth. So this whole China market, which is probably the largest, if you look at it in population size, the biggest market itself, is a closed market because of the fact that the Chinese want to actually protect themselves from the foreign culture taking over and possibly affecting the young Chinese minds that go into films themselves. So I think it's a political policy that is overflows itself into cultural.